Inside, the lights are low. This isn't your typical lounge. This is where the forgotten tales gather, where the shadows have their say. We'll talk of monsters in the woods, of killers with a motive and lights in the sky, and ghosts in the attic. Come into the waiting room, please.
Tonight we got the Serpentarium squad. And if you're wondering why my voice sounds so effed up, it's because I've been sick for like 6 days. And my wife was going, well, you should probably cancel this and get some rest. I said, F that. That's the Serpentarian squad. I got to do this show. God dang it. So anyway, can everybody in the Serpentarian go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, Nikki, you want to start out?
Yeah, I'm Nikki. Been working here for about 2 years now, almost.
And I'm Chris. I've been back with the company now for 6 months. Worked with the company back in 2016 for a few years.
You all right?
Then I'm Joaquin. I've been back with the company for about a year, but I worked with the company for about 5 and up until 2020.
Now, I'm just kind of curious. How did you guys become so knowledgeable about reptiles and all that other stuff?
You want to start?
I definitely think it's just a lot of like on-job learning and learning from, our peers.
Yeah.
Some of us definitely know a lot more than others, so we kind of like piggyback off of a lot of each other. So like Joaquin, he's like the encyclopedia of reptiles and invertebrates. So, we get a lot of knowledge from him for sure.
Yeah, I've had reptiles and bugs and frogs, everything since I was pretty much a kid. When my brother was a little older than me, so when I was born, we already had an iguana and red-eared slider turtle. My uncle used to be kind of an animal hoarder, and so we've always had tons of reptiles. And then I worked at a Petco for many years, and then I left the Petco to actually work at the Serpentarium the first time to specifically kind of like hone in on reptiles and arthropods. And so then it's just been old news ever since that.
Yeah, and I think we got off of that too. I've been into animals my whole life, so just learning through my whole life, little information all adds up.
The only time I ever had any lizards when I was living in Monterey, we had a wood pile, and I would capture these blue belly lizards.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Heather over here, she used to have a ball python, and she wanted to ask you guys a couple things.
Oh, hi. I had a ball python. She was about 5 foot, and I don't know how old she was when I adopted her. But I was wondering, is there a way you can tell about how old they are by how long they are?
No, reptiles have what they call indiscriminate age determination. And so we always tell people you could take 2 sibling ball pythons, and one goes to a home that feeds it weekly, one goes to a home that feeds it bi-weekly. And then at the end of the year, the one that's fed weekly could be a whole 1.5 feet larger than the one that was fed bi-weekly, but they will both look 100% healthy, no issues. So that's where it's hard, because we deal with that all the time, where we get surrenders in, and they're like full grown ball pythons, and all you can kind of really guess is like what the minimum could be, because something that's like 5 feet, more than likely with the healthy growth, is probably 3 or more. But that same snake could probably be 20.
What are the most expensive pet snakes that you guys sell right now? What's the hot sellers?
Right now in the shop, I think our most expensive one is probably our Doom Rose boa. He's about a 5 foot, 6 foot long. Probably
You want to get it?
probably about a solid 3-4 inches in girth.
Yeah, we'll bring you.
Oh, thank you. I was just gonna ask.
Yeah, she's a pretty hefty one, and another one of those subtropical boas. They're definitely a little bit lower and slower in terms of like growth. But with that low and slow, you definitely get like bigger snakes typically out of it. That's why you got like Burmese pythons and reticulated pythons getting so big.
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
Well, sorry, Joaquin. I was just curious. This particular boa, where is it native to?
Madagascar.
Yeah.
And so it's captive bred in the States, but native to Madagascar. She's right now our most expensive snake in the store. Hottest selling snakes. Hottest selling is definitely going to be between hognose, ball pythons.
Put her out.
Yeah, this is her. She's a good one. The New World
Beautiful.
boa. Yeah, she's awesome. Puppy dog too.
Wow.
Now they give live birth, right? They're boas, so they're not.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is does that make them more difficult to breed them in captivity?
Not necessarily. No, I would say just as a little bit easier since you don't have to incubate, but then you just got to make sure all the little neonates are set up correctly, so they have the right husbandry while they're in their most like fragile state. But a lot of people do like it. I've never bred them in like at my house, but at work we have. And I've always said I want to get more in my own collection because not having to incubate eggs would be a lot of fun. But yeah, no, I always think it would be a little easier because sometimes the eggs are nerve-wracking.
Are there hybrids between two different species like this and another type of boa that go around?
For sure. I would say more with like the pythons and colubrids, and colubrids are like corn snakes, king snakes, milk snakes. There's a guy out there who used to be called, I think, like mosaic reptiles, and he bred tribrids, which were a hybrid of a king to a corn, and then they took those and bred them to milks. So you end up having three different genus, well, technically possibly two genuses, but three different species. But normally you always look out for stuff that's the same genus with each other, can normally hybrid with each other. Kind of a taboo area. I'm not necessarily against it as long as you got to be responsible, let people know what they're buying. Because some people with the dart frog community, they hate hybrids because a lot of the times you could take two frogs, look completely different from each other, but when you breed them, the babies they'll look like one of the adults, but they're technically not a pure of that adult, and then they could be sterile, they could have any other issue, and so people don't really want to like add that to the collection if they're trying to buy a true, you know.
Aren't they poisonous though, or aren't dark frogs poisonous?
In the wild, they're eating a particular type of ant and other little bugs that they basically push that toxin to their skin. Where in captivity they're just eating crickets and fruit flies, so they don't get anything that can develop the toxin.
Awesome. Hey Heather, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. I was wondering, are you guys breeding her out or just keeping her for sale?
No, she's just for sale, but we might keep her. Pretty soon we're gonna kick back up with doing like having events in the store or going to like people's like houses for birthday parties and schools. And she's just got a really good demeanor, really cool looking exotic snake, good size. And so if she doesn't sell anytime relatively soon, then we might put her into that program. We're just waiting to start the program here in the California side. Our Texas locations are already doing it. A lot easier regulations in Texas than there are here in California.
I love that you guys are doing birthday parties. I went to a kid's birthday party and they had Dubai cockroaches and they let the kids touch them. No snakes.
Right, buddy. Bring like a whole bin. Yes, sir.
Probably.
That's a good one because you probably bring like a whole bin of those roaches and people have all sorts of fun.
So do you guys find that the snakes, like if a person has a cat or if they have like a dog, they kind of become intuitive with it. They get to know it. Like they can look at it, know if it wants to eat, if it wants to be pet or whatever. And you kind of get this like understanding where it's kind of, it's beyond, them just nudging you. You kind of know what they're thinking. They know. Is it like that with the reptiles as well?
It can be. It definitely can be. That's like what Steve Irwin in like their all Australia Zoo approach is really, really learning like the animal husbandry and just like the movements and body language. Because it definitely depends on the snake. Like I've had some snakes where if they saw my cats, because I also have 5 cats, but if they saw my if they saw my cats, like they wouldn't care. They just look at them, walk on by, and then I've definitely had snakes where they would probably try to eat the cat. But it really is dependent on the snake.
Well, when you said cat, actually, I was referring to also, do any of the snakes seem like you know their personalities more than others, or like you can kind of understand them, like their behavior? Have you found that out after working with them that long?
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of just comes down to each snake's a snake, but
Okay.
some snakes are definitely like, and it also comes down to species too. Like some species tend to be like a little bit more flightier than others. So it kind of just comes
Okay.
down to like learning how that species typically interacts with humans and, other things. But usually, you learn pretty quickly. We have a few customers that come in and they buy a snake, their first snake, and, they 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, they come back into the store and they're telling us that now the snake becomes like, it's just their TV pet now. They just sit
Yeah.
there and watch
Okay.
TV with it. So, people definitely learn how their snakes kind of interact with them over a little bit period of time.
Thanks. Right on.
Yeah, like we've definitely like we meet a lot of ball pythons, and there's ball pythons that want nothing to do with you, and they're going to be defensive and bitey. There's ones that want nothing to do with you, and they're just going to ball up. And there's some that are like, I'm going to hang out with you and not leave your side.
Wow. That's the one I want.
Yeah, she's kind of like a prime example. She's just sitting here, enjoying her chin scratches, and she's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
in the world.
Wow, that's so
Yeah.
cool.
Do you get a lot of people that want? I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead. You got a
Oh,
question.
no more. No, go ahead, Phil. Go ahead.
I was just wondering. There are some snake. I've had them in the past when I was young, and then when my son was young, I had a couple for him too. The ball side pythons were my favorite, only because they were small and seemed to be the friendliest of all of them. The Burmese could be either real nice or not nice, and and to be honest with you, a retic was something I never wanted to get involved with, just
Well, I don't blame
because of
you.
the reputation. And I was just wondering, what kind of person actually like goes out of their way to get, something like a retic, or that's a potential man eater.
Well, one of our coworkers, a lot of people more than you think. Like one of our coworkers, Arlen, he's got two Burmese pythons right now. One's I think about 7 foot. And I think the other one's just like a yearling. But a lot of it comes down to like, back when you were probably a little bit younger, those were like a lot newer to the reptile trade. So they were considered like more like the F1, F2, which is like first in captivity, where they're a little bit more closer to,
There are a
um,
dozen now.
just like close to wild as wild can get. But now they're so far bred in captivity that they've definitely like calmed down over the years, and they're usually not quite as aggressive now. But you still got the big body, but they're just not quite as aggressive and striking nowadays.
Depends on how they're raised too, but overall they've definitely been a lot more almost domesticated with how much we've been captive breeding them. Like I have a buddy of mine that breeds them, and he's got over 9 adults, his largest one being almost 18 feet. And they're puppy dogs. Let them out and they go through his house and his kitchen and everything.
Wow, an 18-foot retic and just free roaming.
Yeah, every now and then. Yeah, he has some of his enclosures, like really big, like 8, 10 foot enclosures. But that's something where it becomes debatable. A lot of people will keep them in that. Unfortunately, some people will keep them in smaller. And I'm the type of person personally where if I was to have one, it needs like a room.
Yeah.
And that's like a green anaconda is one of my dream snakes, but I'm not going to get one anytime soon.
Yeah. I've always the yellow and the green. I always wanted one of those too, but I thought I needed like a whole garage or a separate bedroom.
100%. Yeah,
With
that'd
a
be the way to
pool
do it.
by itself, and it's something nice
Yeah.
because, I mean, it's a massive snake, and but there's another one too that I thought along the lines of the retic, where you could end up with at least back in the day they had a reputation of not being the friendliest snake to handle. Maybe
For
that's
sure.
changed here.
And greens are still kind of like that. Like it takes a lot of effort to get a green to be nice. We had one in the past. We had she was like 12, 13 feet called Annie, and she was a birthday party snake. And when we used to do them years ago, big exhibit one, and she was about 12 to 13 feet, about the width of a football, and she was puppy dog. But we've gotten in some babies over the last year, and everyone it was just wants to bite your face off.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It must be expensive, huh? If you have a big snake, like people don't think about it. It's like if people say, I want a big house, but like the landscaping, everything. I mean, can you afford, where do you go, buy food for snakes this big, on a regular?
Oh yeah, it gets pricey. We carry frozen rodents and frozen birds and rats and stuff and shop.
Some farmers.
So you get rabbits. A lot of the people are coming in for like these 4 to 5 pound rabbits.
Okay.
Some people even buy like little piglets. But we definitely
Wow.
probably offer up to those like large, extra large rabbits.
Eventually, you probably start breeding them yourselves.
Yeah, a lot of people will get into that. With even with the rats, rats and mice, and just depends how many you have in your collection. I know a ball python breeder I think they're sitting on 200 plus snakes now, and they thought they would never breed rodents, but they just posted the other day that they're starting a rodent breeding operation.
Have you I know it's taboo about some of the more venomous species, but I've always loved the way the beaded lizard or the Gila monsters look. They're just gorgeous creatures.
For sure.
And I know different states have different laws. I happen to be in Florida now, where almost everything's legal. But I have seen some sellers online that are breeding Gila monsters and then beaded lizards. You guys have any experience with that? I know that those are the only 2 venomous species of lizard, true venomous species, right? Or are there more?
Yeah, it depends on how you consider like monitor lizards, but they tend to be more of like an anticoagulant than an actual like hema or nematoxin. But yeah, the beaded lizards. So in California, we can't have Gila monsters at all. There are people that you can have them in like Utah or a couple other states, that there are people that breed them, but the beaded lizards and all the other subspecies of beaded lizard, there are a few breeders of them. One of the biggest ones is actually out of California, Stephen Jelly. He is arguably like the largest breeder of them nationwide. And he's here out in the greater Sacramento Bay Area.
But they're not legal, but he's in California.
So the beaded lizards are legal, but the Gila monsters are not, and so it's a different species.
No, from what I've seen, the beaded are the yellow and black, and the Gila monster is the pink and black. Is that the main difference? I thought there was.
There is a like more red locale of the Gila monsters, but the beaded lizards can come like all black, little white or yellow dots. They don't tend to come as that mosaic banding that the Gila monsters get. They still get pretty mosaic looking, but I always found that the Gilas have the nice big bars and they look like just some sort of mosaic piece. But beadeds can come in all sorts of different styles, and they tend to get a little bit bigger too. But they tend to be more of a Mexican variety.
I was about to say, aren't they crossed over into like similar areas where they live? Is there some crossover with that, or in Mexico and in the Southwest, or is it just fully different, separate territory?
I think here, I could be wrong, but I think here mostly what we have in like the California, Nevada, Arizona region are all the like Gila monsters. And I think most of the beaded lizards, if I'm not mistaken, are all like central, Mexico area, like Mexico, Central America. Yeah, like the Rio Forte. And there's a couple of different localities of them. They're not one that I've never dabbled in too much myself, but my buddy, a really close friend of mine, worked with Stephen Jelly, and he would always have them. And then that same buddy that has the retic, that's his second species he's working with, is he's getting into the beaded lizards. Really, really cool lizards, but the venom and their teeth are just gnarly. If you ever look up a beaded lizard skull, their teeth are crazy looking. They're all just
I'm fascinated with them. What's cool is anybody have a ring cam in here?
Yeah.
Okay, you get on the network where you see what your neighbors are doing with the ring cam.
No.
Oh yeah. Well, one of my neighbors posted. If you lose your pets, a lot of people post on the ring cam network around here, right? Somebody posted. I'm not joking. I'm in Flagler Beach, Florida. Somebody posted about 2 days ago. They lost a Komodo dragon around here, and they had a picture of a collar around it.
That's some Florida stuff right there.
Serious. Well, I thought they were endangered because they're only in one part of the world. There's 2 of them at the alligator farm in St. Augustine. I didn't think private ownership of that species was allowed.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. I think technically, I mean, it's just whatever work it takes to get a permit. The alligator farm might be AZA or close enough to be able to get some sort of permit. Or there's obviously, there's a lot of like dark web, deep trading of endangered species, unfortunately.
Yeah, Alligator Farm is it does a lot of. I'm sorry, Paul. Alligator Farm is the second oldest tourist attraction in the state of Florida, and it's more of a zoo. It's called the Alligator Farm, but it's actually a zoo.
Oh
And
yeah,
so they work with they do a lot of trading between species of other places around the country and around the world.
Oh, that's
And
cool.
that's
I'll
why
add that to my list.
yeah, they have crocodilians from around the world at that place. So I mean that's the reason why they have it. Why my neighbor has one? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. Since we get the surrenders and stuff, we also get a ton of people, and I feel like more so than back in the day. Like back in the day, maybe the whole year would go by and you had somebody find an iguana in somebody's yard. We had a couple rare cases of some random monitor lizard or a bear dragon. But since I've been back for a year, I think we've had at least a dozen cases of people finding monitor lizards, snakes, multiple ball pythons, like bear dragons. Like just this one year, we've already had a dozen or so. So I mean, it definitely shows that like they're getting more popular, but yeah, obviously responsible ownership is not.
They call them.
When people buy them for their kids and the kids don't quite understand, and they go in the room and they open up the thing and they just.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we definitely heard that. Yeah,
That's usually the story that happens.
yeah. Some of us have even done it ourselves.
Wow. Joaquin, I noticed that you said you had 5 cats, and a lot of people always talk about the reptiles. Well, and I got about 5. Well, I got 6, but they talk about the eyes. People always ask me, "Hey, man, do you know that your cat has eyes like the reptile? The only two, species that have this."
Oh, they're like really, really snake eyes slit.
Yeah. Did that factor anything into you, or you just happen to like cats naturally, or do you see any affinity with the cat?
I definitely just liked like all animals really. Like I was saying when I was growing up, my older uncle, he was kind of an animal hoarder. But I remember being a little kid and he had retics, red-tailed boas, Brazilian rainbow boas back when it was like, early 90s and all this stuff was hard to take care of. And so then I ended up getting into that saltwater fish tanks, freshwater fish tanks, like all that. So I've always had cats, dogs. At times I've had like a hedgehog or any other little like random things. But yeah, I've just always loved them, and my wife loves them, and so that's kind of part of why we have 5 now.
Right. It's all right.
But
What about the rest? Anybody else on the panel? What animals do you guys have? What everybody else have?
I've got 3 dogs. I got 3 dogs. I used to breed dogs for a little bit. Did a few litters of dogs.
What kind of like, man? What are your babies? What are they?
I got 2 American pit bulls. And
Okay,
then
nice.
I got a pocket bully as well. So I have some like American pocket crosses, and so I did a few litters of those, but it got too expensive trying to keep up with all the shots and all the food.
Oh yeah.
Reptiles are definitely a lot cheaper. So
Oh,
I just have my staple 3 dogs.
pretty much a lot of stuff with reptiles. I just have 2 iguanas, 2 snakes, a blue tongue skink, a bunch of lizards. and
Wow.
Fish.
Okay, fish. Okay, all
I
right.
mean, a little easier in terms of care and feeding on topics.
Yeah, Chris has reptiles too. Yeah, I got reptiles as well.
Snake,
Wow.
I got a Euromastics. Got a chain link eel, which is like actually like a relative cousin to the big yellow moray eel. So that eel will get about, I think, about 4 foot, 5 foot. So just a little guy right now, but he'll get big.
Hey, you guys, do you ever watch History Channel's Swamp People?
Oh, I love that show.
Yeah.
Do you think that, excuse my voice, do you think California will ever be like Florida, where there are snakes all over the place?
Probably not as bad, but we're gonna have some. Or there's definitely gonna be more cases of stuff escaping. But yeah, I don't think it'll be as bad. Maybe it's parts of San Diego, because parts of San Diego already have some like Jackson's chameleons and stuff like that are out.
Wow.
So I could see parts of San Diego getting that a little bit that way. But just here in this year alone, having like the dramatic increase of people finding reptiles. I think there was 3 different cases in the greater area of the tegus. Like the West Sac had a tegu get out like twice, I think from different people, and then I think there was one in like the Santa Clara area, and like it's just
Okay.
wild. So more of that's probably gonna happen for sure.
That area, right? That Santa Clara, you know, up in San Jose, Morgan Hill, like back in the hills. I used to be up there, you know, and I saw, you know, just the regular lizards, you know, the tail comes off and I wonder how come there are any bigger species or any other species? Is there any reason why? Is it the climate or is it the food? What is it? Why aren't there any other than those little tiny lizards?
I think it's probably a little combination of both. Like our climate doesn't probably allow for like
We
this.
get cooler temperatures here.
Yeah.
Typically, when you have bigger animals, it leads to like higher temperatures being present.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
why you go to San Diego, you know, the iguanas will cross over there, you know, because it starts getting a little more tropical. But yeah, no, up here it's like you really once you start going down is where you'd find because there's Chuckwalla and stuff like that down you going towards Mojave. But I can't really think of anything that's big other than like maybe some long snakes. That's really north of like the Tehachapi.
Man, let's talk about the nasty, like the king of the reptiles, like the kimonos. Like who's like the lion of the jungle for the as far as the reptiles? Like who do you guys really admire as far as their prowess, their poison, their strength, and
Yeah, monitor lizard. Yeah, monitor lizard. Some of my favorite. I personally have a few. Niki's got one.
Man.
They just all the different species still have a lot of similarities. You know, they have that more like snake-like body. They have the Jacobson organ, so they're flicking their tongue out. You know, they just have a nice little like stalking movements to them. Like they're definitely pretty badass.
Definitely apex for sure.
Monitor lizards are the ones that grab the rat and like beat it to death.
Yeah, a lot of them will. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they're pretty violent sometimes. So watch for sure.
Curiosity, what kind of cage would you recommend for one of those? They seem to be able to break out of glass.
It could be a mixture of like a lot of people in the industry are moving to PVC. It's PVC sheets. A lot of people used to do melamine. You could do like what's the type of board? It's like a plywood. People will do like a sealed plywood build. Melamine was an old popular one. But those like I would like so mine at home are tree monitors. So they're a little more slender and not too long. But they're eventually going to be in like just 6 foot by 2x6s. Right now they're in 4 foot by 2x4s. And they're like a mixture of the glass and the PVC. But if you went for like a big Asian water monitor or a crocodile monitor, like any of the really big ones, you're going to definitely need some sort of custom wooden enclosure more than likely.
Yeah, I have 2 rhino iguanas that are both about almost 3.5, 4 feet, and I keep them in say 6 foot by 3 foot by 6 foot.
They're rhino iguanas.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So how about tortoise? Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say a lot of the monitor and the big lizard people they're going to are called like catio enclosures, which are like bird enclosures. They're like aviary enclosures. They're just kind of retrofitted to fit lizards, so they have like climbing perches and stuff like that. And so those are big, like big gauge steel wire, kind of like great cages that can handle a little bit more of a heavier body lizard.
That seems much more humane and give more of a life for the animal because I have seen some of these places that keep snakes in basically storage bins.
Yeah, the tubs and racks and
Yeah, they even have like they're like in a shelving unit. Oh, let me pull this one out, pull this one out. And I'm like, I guess if you're breeding, then that it's convenient certainly for you, but it doesn't seem like much of a life for the animal.
Yeah, it really depends on how they set them up. You know, there's a lot of breeders out there that they just, since they have so much volume, they want the consistency and the easiness. But then I know personally other people that they'll get those systems big enough tubs so that when you open the tub, they still have bedding, multiple huts, little stuff to climb around. In the end, still not my cup of tea. Like everything I keep is normally in like a larger enclosure. But there's definitely multiple ways that people do it in the hobby, and it's a point of contention with a lot, whether they rack keep or enclosure keep. And there's a time and place. A lot of these baby snakes, like you could not raise them unless you're doing a rack system. They just really, really like to feel that tiny, cramped, secure environment. And so that was kind of a big improvement when a lot of people were, doing that, because some snakes, you try setting them up in a beautiful looking naturalistic terrarium, but if they're not well established and they're still very young, then they pretty much just want to be stressed the whole time, and they don't take well to feedings and whatnot. Then you throw them in a shoebox and they're eating every week for you, and you're finally getting them to good size.
More than you'd expect.
Yeah, I got
Yeah.
two that are like that. I got two baby carpets that I'm keeping in a little snake. It's a little 8-quart snake tub, and we put them in a nice, like small tall like terrarium, and they wouldn't eat for us. And so we put them in the tub, and now they've been eating every week consistently. So yeah, it definitely plays a factor into how you use the tubs.
How do you guys deal with being worried about your babies like that? Or like you just said, that would trip me out. When you have that many and something can, they can get sick or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, it's definitely part of the industry, and especially if you start getting into like more advanced, keeping like animals that have like higher requirements, or their parameters need to be like always perfect, versus some that are more forgiving. Then it definitely becomes a little nerve-wracking, because every week you're like, all right, I'm gonna feeding you again. You didn't eat again. You didn't eat again, and then you'll eventually see some like loss of weight, and then that's when you got to react. Continue to see what can you fix for the parameters, what can you get them for food. But that's where trying to get everything set up properly the first time is the right way. And so a lot of times, if we get in little tiny baby snakes, they'll just go straight to the rack for like a month or so, and then once they've done enough consistent feeding, then that's when we'll try putting them in, because our store, we'll definitely do a tour before the podcast is up. Lights might be off, so we'll see. But our shop, we like to have everything like naturalistic, and so some stores you go to, they're just in these little tiny cubes. Here's a hut and a water dish, call it a day. But here we like to have, some tanks will be fully live plants, woodscape, everything, high enrichment. We call it being 5-star, and so we want enclosures to be like as scientific naturalistic as they can be. And so that's where you want to raise that baby just right before you let it go in there.
Hey, Joaquin, I'm going to let Phil explain to you. We're going to send you a second link. But
Okay.
Phil, can you explain it to him what's going on?
Yeah, we're gonna, in about 2 minutes. We've got roughly about 2 minutes left for this first half of the podcast episode. Then we're gonna take about a 10-minute break, and we will send you another link for the second half, and then just reconnect again, just like you guys are right now. We'll pick up and we'll do the second half episode.
That sounds perfect.
And we have a lot more questions for you. Really enjoying this episode, and all the knowledge you guys bring to it. You guys are great. Thank you very much for your time.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. It's fun.
And I keep them afloat because I go in there, I go in there every 3 days and spend money.
Big bucks.
I'm a big
Hey,
baller.
you're a millionaire, man. Hey, you're on Forbes and shit. Come on, man.
Big baller.
We see Paul walking in, we hop right to it.
You got it ready.
Got his order already bagged for him every time. But that's what we love doing here. We really try to keep just like the customer service and the customer experience to like a high bar. So we always pride ourselves on being a little different than most other shops.
Yeah, when we get back, we've only got a minute left, but when we get back, I got some questions about like mites or any other type of illnesses that you guys might run into. As far as keeping especially a high volume of animals, you're always going to run into those things. I'm just wondering how you guys handle that stuff. Don't answer it now. We only got less than a minute left, but as soon as we get back, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Sounds good. Perfect. Yeah, I'll grab some stuff to show off too.
Yeah, nice.
All right, we're almost done.
All right.
See you in about 10 minutes.
They're good.
They know that stuff.
I love how mellow that snake is.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart. This is what we're talking about. Some hang out, they don't care.
Twig on her mouth isn't bothering me.
This is the kind of steak you can just sit down and watch a movie with, and she ain't going nowhere.
Yeah,
Love it. Damn.
it's great hugs.
He's great. She really hugs the rats really well.
Man, I gotta give her some vocal.
All right. We picked it up last time. I was about to ask you guys a question about diseases that you run into. I know with cats and dogs, they have their own set of problems that people have to bring to the vet all the time. But you don't hear about people bringing their reptiles to the vet often. So, being as a business that you are, what do you run into the most with your snakes and your lizards and any other reptiles you have?
I'd say first would be mites. Mites, and then what do you just think second?
Mainly like just temperature issues, like improper husbandry where you get certain like viruses, the respiratory illnesses.
The other would be like metabolic bone disease,
Yeah.
vitamin A deficiency, or hypervitaminosis. It just kind of depends on like, all the circumstances, but those are like the key ones.
Yeah, so here at the shop we do free health checkups. And this is something that we pride ourselves on because kind of like you were talking about earlier, like there's really not a lot of vets out there that should be seeing reptiles. A good amount of vets will see reptiles, but we hear a good amount of horror stories at the same time. There are some good vets, but for the most part, yeah, reptiles are all like, since they're cold-blooded, it's all parameters based. So 9 times out of 10, if they take it to a vet that's not familiar with them, they're only treating like the animal in front of them, like they do with like cats, dogs, and whatnot. And a lot of those animals are easier to diagnose that way and treat. Whereas like reptiles, you could treat the animal in front of them, might come in with like a respiratory illness, and they're like, here's some antibiotics, but it'll go home to what the conditions that gave it the respiratory illness. And that's a big problem. So we'll get a ton of people that come in all the time, if they know about it, and or they'll call and ask about vets, and we try to have them stop by us first. Because 9 times out of 10, it's you got the wrong light bulb. Really the wrong light bulb is probably like the most common because that could be for heat too, but heating pads and whatnot. They're using thermostats inappropriately. There's a probe to measure the temperature that you're trying to control out of a unit, and people will aim the probe like in the middle of the cage when it's controlling a heat pad that's attached to the bottom of the cage. So it's like the heat pad's never going to, hit the temperature you're supposed to have. So really, it's just making sure people know how to use their products, and then that is the husbandry accurate. But that happens a lot, and we'll get in stuff that will refer people to a few vets that we work with. I have a friend of mine that's a veterinary surgeon, and for a while he would actually call and ask questions himself, but he's a smart guy, so he's done a lot of research, and now he's doing like surgeries on reptiles and whatnot. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, with my observation when I go into the shop, you guys become the vets.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
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 What kind of medicine? I mean, because dogs and cats, they can't use the same type of antibiotics that a human does. Uh, Reptiles has to be a whole nother, for like the respiratory issues. Are there antibiotics for that get prescribed for snakes?
Yeah, for sure. Like there's a whole slew, and some of the stuff actually does carry over. I can't remember the exact term for name of the drug that they do for respiratory. It depends on if it's bacterial or viral. So that's where your vet will probably want a sample, and it does get costly. But I would say again, like 9 times out of 10, like we can get a cold and get over a cold. Obviously, it's good sometimes to try to get antibiotics for whatever we're having, flu or whatnot. But we've seen it a bunch of times where people will bring in snakes that have respiratory illnesses and they're leaking out the face. And we just set them up in a tank that's got the right heat, temperature, humidity. You maintain it, and within a week or two, it's gone. And as long as they go to an area that maintains those parameters, they're going to still have it, not reoccur. So there's a good chance that a lot of respiratories can be handled without. It just depends on how severe, the case. But oh, sorry, yeah, a fun tidbit on like the dog stuff. There's actually it's part of like fipronil, but there's a brand called Front Guard and Frontline. Frontline for like dogs and cats. So in the UK, there's one called like Front Guard, and it's a chewable, like kind of meaty chew. Okay, one. Yeah, it'll be like kind of a meaty chew. And in the UK, people have successfully cut and measured the weight of the animal and then follow the same guideline as the cat and dog, get all the weights accurate, and then give the snakes a meal, like get a frozen rat, put the little piece of front guard in the rat and then feed it to the snake, and it does the same thing that it does for cats and dogs, where their blood becomes toxic to the mites, and then then it'll cure the mites.
Speaking of
That's
frozen, I'm sorry, Heather. Go ahead.
that's amazing that someone figured out how to do that.
Oh yeah. And some people in the States have started doing it too. It's just, from my understanding, it's a lot easier if you get the like that crumble chewable tab, because then you can cut it and measure it out properly. But from my understanding, it's a little harder to find that exact one versus like what we use here in the States. So ourselves were trying to find it so we can get it, but it's a prescription item. But that way, anything you come in, you can do what they call prophylactic treatment. And that's just, trying to make sure that you're doing all this preventative, whether the thing has mites or not, you might as well clean it. Because that's what we do when animals come in, is we'll give everything like a preventative treatment, even if we don't see any mites or anything like that.
The you were talking about feeding, trying to get the animal to eat in order to give it medication, and using frozen food. And I know in the UK, you're not allowed to give live rodents or any live meals to your reptiles. In the States, those laws, I believe, were never passed, so you're still allowed to do that. When I was keeping reptiles, whether as a kid or 20 years ago when my son was a kid, we were doing it. I tried the frozen thing and could never ever get a snake to touch even a thawed mouse. They wanted them moving. How do you guys get them to eat frozen or thawed, meals?
Yeah, it typically comes down to mainly getting the rodent up to temperature, and presenting it as if it is alive. So getting a little movement, kind of presenting it, making sure it stays warm. Usually, if the snake takes a while to get to the rodent, it might cool down. So I tend to just keep a cup of hot water with me, dunk it back in there, get it back up to temperature, and present it again. And it might take a little finesse and kind of back and forth with it. Typically, eventually, I do get them to eat. It's just a lot more patience involved.
And they have to be very.
Sorry, Heather. I keep cutting you off. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. They have to be so hungry. I switched from live to the frozen, and it took forever to get Mother Agnes to actually switch over.
Yeah.
And
sorry.
it took forever. It took me almost a year. And even then, I started doing guinea pigs. There was nothing else I could do.
Oh, nice. Those are pretty good, though. Those are good feeders. But yeah, no, that's something that we deal with a lot. Like a lot of our customers, actually, right now there is currently a rodent shortage in our area. So there's not enough suppliers to meet the demand of rodents, and so we get a lot more frozen rodents than we are live nowadays. And so we're trying to convert people to feed their stuff frozen. And so we hear it all the time. I would say probably only 2 out of 10 is it actually the snake won't touch frozen. I would say the majority of the time it's just, how, like what Nikki said, how much patience do you have in trying to fully thaw the rodent and then do your best to keep that temperature hot.
I've gone back and forth with my snake for about 45 minutes to an hour one time, and she would take it, then drop it, decide she doesn't want to eat it, and I kept doing that back and forth for about an hour until she finally decided to eat it.
It's I'm going back to about 1984, giving away my age here, about 11 years old, and I had a gray rat snake.
Oh, cool.
And I didn't want to give it mice, and ended up buying the mice and growing fond of the mice, which, as I guess 11-year-old kids do. And so what I ended up doing was I fed the snake a can of Alpo, and believe it or not, it ate the Alpo.
Oh man, that's awesome. I mean, some rat snakes are, they got those videos of them breaking in their people's chicken coops, eating eggs. But that's pretty hardcore.
They totally liked canned dog food.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's definitely some garter snakes that I bet could eat that, because they'll eat fish and cat food and whatnot. That's pretty interesting, though. I could love to see that.
So, Mother Agnes, you're about to feed something a guinea pig. That must be a sizable snake. How big is Mother Agnes, and what species is she?
She was a ball python. She was about 5 foot when I rescued her from someone who just left her in a tub when they moved.
Wait a minute, you got a ball python that's eating guinea pigs? How small are these guinea pigs?
So I started breeding them.
Nice, yeah.
So they were about this big originally, and then they get bigger. So eventually they're the size of like a mason jar. Yeah, and she had no problem just downing them.
This has got to be the biggest ball python I've ever seen in my life.
Also, the baby
I'll
guinea
feed
pigs
them.
aren't too bad. We used to have a breeder of guinea pigs who was selling them to like the pet stores locally, and then a lot of them stopped buying from smaller breeders. They were buying them from like the big time ones, and so she was supplying us for a few years, and they would be, you know, the size of like the smallest would be like that, maybe like a small rat, but all the way up to, you know, like a 3 pounder or something like that. But guinea pigs are really good for your animals.
People eat them.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
National dish down
High in
in,
like I want to say like
South
omega
America.
threes. Yeah, they are really healthy food. We're trying to get guinea pig back on the menu, but there's not a lot of breeders of them.
I don't want to keep dominating the questions. I can do that if you want me to.
Well, I mean, the breeding of guinea pigs is so easy. Have you guys ever thought about doing it?
I do. I got a little bit of land. It just depends on, you know, how I could set them up in something out on like a shed outside, or. But it would be nice because then there'd be just another thing to offer that's healthy, and for animals like red-tailed boas and whatnot, you know, it could almost be like a natural diet for them.
That's true. And then you can also sell them in store.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, when I was breeding them, I just used chicken wire, and I just made like a small cage underneath the vehicle, and they just reproduced, had no problem whatsoever, except for winter.
Oh man.
I had to put them in a shed.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, no, I would definitely love to. Same with like quail. Quail's another big one that people are getting into for feeding, you know, a lot more of the arboreal snakes, and even monitor lizards. So it's like quail is one that's on my list to get into.
Button quail are so easy to breed, is from what I'm
Oh
understanding.
yeah, we had another coworker who was doing it years ago, and they were supplying like all the eggs and day old quail chicks. But they don't work with us anymore, so it's like, yeah, I would love to do that. But I'm so fond of the California quail, and so everybody's like, you know, just get the buttons. But I feel like if I'm gonna do it, I want to have fun at the same time.
Have you ever had anybody like have like a storage space or a space where, say, they had good stuff in there and they got infested with rats or rodents and they like wanted their stuff, but they just didn't want to go through it, like, and they say, hey, can you put snakes in here and see like if they can eat them?
No, no. I have we have people that'll call and like ask, you know, is there any way I can get like snake poop? Because it's not fully a myth. It's worked for
Yeah,
some
yeah,
people. It's worked for some people, but I guess, but you know, you put the excrement throughout the
yeah,
garage,
yeah.
and it'll keep the mice or rats away, allegedly. And then I have a buddy that when he does, for some people, he's done like rattlesnake removal, and he'll when he removes all that he could find in their property, they'll put a fence up, and then after the fence is up, it's like a snake proof, animal proof fence, and he'll release some king snakes on the property, and then after like a couple months come back and get them. And supposedly he's been lucky with able to find his king snakes every time he comes back, and you know, it's just supposed to be something to help make sure they eat any other rattlesnakes that
Yeah.
are out there.
I had a lot of
I'm sorry.
I had a lot of success taking the snake skin, putting it in a spray bottle, and I was able to spray my plants and keep cats away.
No, that's a good idea. Yeah, I can see that working. You know, have another smell of some sort of predator or something they don't want to be by.
Is Dean,
Yeah.
what a lot of people don't talk about is, and you'll never hear it really, is that if I had to put money on a wild rat versus a captive snake, my money's on the rat.
Yeah, 100%. Even the domestic rat, that's actually a huge problem we run into a lot.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we'll get people that, you know, they think their snakes are big and bad, you know, like every snake's so vicious that they'll buy a snake, you know, get the snake and then they buy a live rat and they leave the rat in overnight. And I can't tell you how many snakes we've seen where they come in and their spine's showing because the rats ate through it. Big old hole in the snake, and the snake's still alive. You know, so they always think that it's, you know,
Wow.
not good. Give me one moment, I'll be right back.
Yeah, rats are brutal. They're I felt bad for them until I saw them jump about 5 feet across onto a bird feeder and attack a bunch of doves. And I thought at that moment, if they had rats the size of dogs, then humans might not be the dominant species on this planet because rats are just vicious.
Those big marsupials, man.
Yeah. I think, what is it, down there in Florida? You guys got those big species of rats, don't you?
And marsupials.
Well, we got swamp rats. We have some nutria bleeding down.
Nutria,
From,
it's the nutria. Those guys are like those
Nutria.
things are like this big. They're huge.
Yeah.
Dang.
They
That's
got
why I
everything.
switched to guinea pigs.
Yeah, guinea pigs are good tasting and sweet animals. But you know what they do is I've heard, or I've seen people do, besides Jack Russells and rat terrier type dogs going after dogs, they've been using mink.
Yeah,
And
oh my god.
Yep.
I watched
Yeah.
that guy.
Yeah,
He
you
had a
watched them.
monitor
He's
lizard.
got the white one, and he's got a little lizard that he
Yeah,
puts
he
in
does the
holes
Argus
and-
monitor, and he's done a couple of successful hunts with that thing too.
Yeah, they're awesome. Now those are rat killers. They
Oh,
go
yeah.
right in the hole after them, and they're awesome. But you don't want your ball python going up against a rat. It's just not.
Oh no.
No, not at all. Yeah, no. Unfortunately, we do run into it pretty often too.
Well, I mean, if you take the rat, it sounds horrible, but you take the rat and you just slam it into whatever.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
That's the old school. We gas ours now, so it's a little bit more humane.
That actually sounds much nicer than what I was doing.
Yeah, we do
It
the
hurt.
3 steps. We do live, we do gas, and we do frozen. Gassing is just replacing oxygen with CO2, and it just puts them to sleep really, really quickly. So
Oh, well, how do you get them to move so the snake's interested?
Yeah,
you just grab them with a pair of
forceps.
4 steps, and you just kind of sit there and dance them around.
If you go straight home, which most people do on the feeding days, like the thing's still going to have like body heat and whatnot, and so most of the time that gets the snakes to go on it.
Tongs and hot water.
Yeah, tongs of hot water and sometimes get a little towel because some of the snakes are little sissies, and if the water drips on them, then they get all shy and back away.
Yeah.
So I'll get like a cup of like really, really hot water after it's thawed out, and then I'll get like a little towel and then just dunk the rat, tab it on the towel, offer it to the snake. Sometimes you got to rinse and repeat. Other people will use like a hair dryer and just really, really hit it with a hair dryer for like a minute or two, and then rinse and repeat that. And normally, especially with the pythons and boas, it's a lot of like heat, heat vision basically.
You were saying that you keep carpet pythons, right?
Yes, sir.
They're arboreal, right? That's a tree dweller, isn't it?
Yeah, they're pretty tree dwelling. They're like depending on like where like all of my stuff like that I have is like Australia native. So
Okay.
I kept a lot of the Brettles carpet pythons, coastal carpet pythons, and scrub pythons, which are all like Australian native species.
Nice. I've seen them stretch out before, and they're the coolest snake that you almost their entire body length they can keep almost like an arrow.
Yeah, going from tree to
just-
tree, and they're another big bird species. So their primary diet is going to be birds, bats. In Australia, the scrub python eats like small like wallabies and stuff like that. I ain't getting a wallaby here in the States, but they can get pretty close.
Hey, Phil, the Serpentarium, they also too they sell scorpions, tarantulas, turtles, and a variety of lizards. In fact, we had 6 tarantulas and we had 1 scorpion, but now we only have 2 tarantulas left.
Hey, Paul, when we were in combat training in South Carolina, we had a staff sergeant that was part of the Snake Eaters Club. The recon guy, right? And he told us to go if he ever saw a scorpion out there to tell him because he was an insect collector, right? And he told us don't kill it, don't stop it, just call me. I'm gonna come over and grab it for you. Well, we called him. We found one. He came over there. He tried to grab it. He got bit. Next thing you know, they medevaced him out.
Oh no! Yeah, we've had some pretty hot scorpions. Like most of the time, we'll carry like Asian forest or emperors, and a lot of stuff that if it stings you is like a bee sting, maybe a little more. But we do have like right now we have a fat-tailed scorpion, and if it was to sting you, you definitely want to go straight to the hospital. It would be really bad.
Not the medevac. Oh my god.
It was there's been some embarrassing moments that I witnessed from guys in command that were trying to show off or whatever. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Probably go with before a fall.
Yeah, that's how it happens. You know, people think they're going to do it, and when in reality, you could have just got like a little stick or something and coaxed it in there. But you know, that's why here we don't really try to pick them up. You know, there's a few like emperor scorpion and rose hair tarantula that we will, because it's one, if it bites you, it's not really anything, and then two, they're probably never going to bite or sting. But then there's a lot that like, yeah, we just, you know, only interact with when we're feeding them and whatnot.
Do people really eat those lollipops with the
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Lollipops all the time. Well, we've also eaten pretty much all the bugs that are for sale here too ourselves.
Yeah, we've definitely we play games here, and we'll go around and we'll eat a different bug a different day of the week.
I
So
love
we've definitely eaten them all between the hornworms, the dubias, and
Mealworms.
mealworms and crickets. So we've been there, tried that.
So we always tell people that talk about the scorpion suckers, like, do it. It's gonna be all right.
Well, when I was in the Army, I went to survival training and we ate bugs.
Oh, nice.
So,
Yeah, some of them are pretty good.
yeah.
Yeah, mealworms are my favorite. They just taste like sunflower seeds. Like
Yeah, mealworms and crickets are definitely like a sunflower seed, like corn nut flavor.
And then we tried these ones called butterworms, and they're all florally and kind of like a weird gin taste to them.
Yeah,
Have you seen the horsehair? I'm sorry, Paul. Have you seen a horsehair worm, Paul?
Oh God, out of like a praying mantis, those videos.
Yeah, did you see that video?
Yeah, those things are gnarly looking. Yeah,
Oh
I would hope
God.
that I was putting any of those in our body with the crickets.
No, what makes me wonder about people eating grasshoppers and things like that. I'm like, I don't know if I want to take a chance with that. But I hear
luckily all of our stuff is farm bred, so I don't think we have to really worry about that.
But yeah, in the wild, or like, you know, Thailand and a lot of other Southeast Asia, like I could only imagine that they would have to get some sort of parasite, but maybe not. I mean, they do cook a lot of their bugs.
Yeah, their street food looks crazy over there.
Yeah, over in India, they a lot of the people get tapeworms.
Really?
No, the bugs.
Plus, I mean, if you dabble in the sushi, I mean, we all have it too.
Yeah.
Just different like forms of parasites, I guess.
My brother is obsessed with it. My brother takes ivermectin once a week.
Oh wow! Hey, some people say that, like, you know, if you were to really try to see how much parasites you have, you probably got one. I know having cats for sure.
Yeah, cats and dogs. If you own pets, that you probably have them.
I'm sure I do. I've got too many cats and too many dogs, but my brother's always with the ivermectin and with the what's the one for the dogs? He's got that too, and every week he's doing it, and he's telling me I need to do it.
Oh wow!
I'm like,
ivermectin.
I think you need a little bit of dirt in your diet just to maintain a healthy,
your gut biome.
Yeah.
Gotta have some resistance, huh?
Yeah, gotta build that up.
Yep. I think our generation and older, they definitely, we put a lot of stuff that we shouldn't have in our stomachs
in the dirt.
Kids. So I definitely think our immune systems are a little bit more
robust
to handle it.
Yeah, you want to pick the kids nowadays. Even the body parts even placed different. I mean, the human is evolving. It's just getting tough. Yeah.
Is there speaking of that kind of thing? I know with some species, there are just diseases or mites. I mean, like we were talking about the mites with the snakes. So there are certain mites that are attacking honeybees that are wiping them out by the millions. Is there anything going around right now that people need to watch out for with their reptiles that's just a stone cold killer?
Yeah, there's a really bad problem right now with yellow fungus going around, and yellow fungus is like it mainly seems like a lot of people with like agomid lizards, like bear dragons and whatnot, are having it, and that's the biggest reason why you wouldn't want anything to be like let outside. That's part of why I don't know if you're familiar with salamanders and newts. So California has like some of the most native variety salamanders and newts, and so a few years back they made it pretty much illegal to buy, sell, and trade a big percentage of salamanders and newts in California, and the biggest reason is because they don't want them to get the critic fungus and then have that affect the native populations if people let them out. Because obviously, as we hear, there are people letting them out. That's how I've gotten them. So I'm a big aficionado for the tiger salamanders, and I love the salamanders in general. And since we can't buy, sell, and trade, I'm always like, I can't get them. But we have people that'll like go camping, and then they catch them, they take them home, and then they don't really do much, so they think that they're not eating and they are not taking good care. So then they'll bring them here and surrender them, and then I get some salamanders, and so that's happened a few times over the years. Um, but I'd say other than the yellow fungus, the mites are a bad one because in theory, if there already exist in the wild anyway, but we probably shouldn't be introducing fully covered more and more than there needs to be, basically artificially introducing them to the wildlife. Because mites, like I know I was reading an article the other day that said bed bugs were definitely adapting to like the chemicals that you treat them with and whatnot. So here in the reptile community, I feel like a lot of people will say the mites are too. So over the years, it's been getting seems like it's almost harder and harder to get rid of them, and more people are getting them.
Bed bug.
Oh yeah.
Back in the day, they used to just say bathe the snake. Try to keep the snake in water for 30 minutes if you can do that, and a lot of them will come off of them. But there really wasn't a lot of treatment. I mean, going back 25 years or whatever, but there wasn't a lot out there to really that was effective other than prolonged periods of time in water, to get the
Yeah,
mites.
definitely. So nowadays, I actually got a couple of products I'll show too. But nowadays, the process is kind of similar. You'll see the snakes will naturally, a lot of snakes will naturally soak themselves. So you walk by and you notice your snake's coiled up in the water dish, submerged. It's definitely good to practice to pull them out and inspect them because that's like the snake's natural ability to try to like drown the mites. The only problem is that a lot of them will tuck up into the scales, so they can sometimes live unless you're like drowning them out for a half hour or more. So normally we'll give them a soak, and just to give you a little rundown, so I'll put some of these right here. It's a little backwards, little backwards. So we have a sister company that's called Lugardi, and Lugardi's logo is this nice kind of Lamborghini-esque looking logo. Lugardi is there you go. It's kind of like it was our sister company. It was started by the owner of the Serpentarium. And basically he saw that there was no premium reptile products out there. And so he kind of turned it. Lugardo is Italian for lizard, so we call it Lugardi. And then that's a crocodile monitor that he used to own that was in our old Lodi location. So since then, we've come out with like tons of products. All of them are premium. Anything that's got like an ingredient in it tries to use human grade ingredients, like really high quality stuff. So like when we get in the snakes that have mites, because we get surrenders in pretty often, we'll start with like the reptile soap, and we'll soak the snake in water. Sometimes I'll start with just water so that if the snake wants to drink, he can drink real quick, because these could be surrenders that who knows the last time they saw water. After a while, and we notice that they're done drinking, we'll then make the water soapy, and the soap is to try to break that like surface tension, and so that helps make the mites slip off, drown, whatnot. So you give them about like a 20-30 minute soak, nice lukewarm water. After the soaking's done, take the snake out, spray the snake down with your faucet as much as you can, up the scale, down the scale, check the little chin folds underneath the snake's mouth. There's some hot spots the mites like to congregate. And once you spray them down and get the whole snake washed, you shouldn't physically see any mites anymore, but there could still be either eggs or, really babies that you didn't get. So then you dry them out. After they're completely dry, there's a mite spray. Oh, there we go. Mite spray. And so this is a bunch of oils and other things that, it's more natural. But it's kind of like equivalent to like those natural ant killers and stuff like that. So it's got a lot of oils. So you treat them with that, and then you kind of follow a regimen of doing that once a week for 3 weeks. The theory is you're trying to like meet that egg cycle, hatch cycle. So then when you got the snakes out treated, we have a disinfectant that is a veterinarian grade disinfectant. We clean the tank with that. After the tank's cleaned with that, we'll clean everything else with this, a regular cage cleaner. And then once the tank is completely immaculate, we'll put bedding back in. And there's another product that I don't have on the counter right now. It's called Prevenamite. And that's one that's been around for probably 2 decades, maybe a hair more. It's definitely not quite that old, but it's been one of the ones that's been around for a while. That's more so like a pyrethrin based And so that's what you treat the like bedding and all the new decor with. And then you should be able to put your snake back in, and then just keep an eye, on it. Those if you did the treatments correctly, that you should be mite free. But it's definitely good to try to like keep up on it for that 3 week span.
What's the largest snake you ever had surrendered to?
We've definitely had some adult Burmese and retics surrendered before. Not too long ago, one of our locations got like a 10 or 12-foot retic.
Yeah.
Surrendered. Largest I think I've seen is 14 feet. And that was, I think, a retic in the old Roseville location.
Wow.
And back when I started with the company 2016, I think here in Elk Grove, we had a 13-foot Burmese python surrendered to us.
Yeah, we've seen everything under the sun. Yeah. Like nowadays too, the ball python morphs. Like we've had snakes that are in theory a $700 snake, and this person has like 5 or 6 in their collection, and they end up needing to rehome them, and so they just drop them all off. And it's pretty wild these days, especially for that type of snake.
These are like the albinos and the pieballs.
Yeah. This one was the one that I'm thinking of was a like pied with 2 other genes. Because now they're kind of like the French bulldogs, where there's just thousands of morphs, and endless sea of them nowadays. But that's crazy to see that like 10 years ago, people were really holding on to them. If it was a $700 snake, it was selling $700. But nowadays, the prices are wild. You go online, you see one price, we get flooded with a bunch in the store. So most of the time, our ball python prices in store are like really good, because we just get so many of them, and we make sure everything looks good. We buy from people, we get surrenders. We try not to carry any wild caught in the store. That's the thing that kind of separates us from other places, is that we will have wild caught, but if we do, 9 times out of 10, it was something that was surrendered to us, like somebody bought from a reptile show or whatnot. But normally everything we go for is captive bred, and then second would be like farmed. But even then, we try to avoid the farms because once you get the high volume, you still get like a little bit of lack of care.
There was an illness that you spoke of besides the respiratory and besides the mites. It was something with bone that you mentioned.
Oh yeah,
metabolic bone disease. Yeah.
Metabolic bone disease, metabolic bone disorder is a lack of calcium and UVB. It's mainly affects a lot of like lizards.
Is that malnutrition? Like, what causes that?
Yeah, it'd be improper husbandry and malnutrition. You want to touch on?
Yeah. So pretty much like a lot of it like comes down to, so like UVB lighting is like something that we give all of our animals. And it's like super, when you go in terms of like aspect of like heat and UVB, personally, like obviously your heat's very important because they're cold-blooded animals, but UVB kind of sits just like, in my opinion, just right above heat, because 30 minutes of being out in like direct sunlight is like the equivalent of what we can give them in an enclosure through all day. So like UVB is super important. It gives them that vitamin A and all that good stuff. So it helps like when you supplement all their feeders and stuff like that, because all the feeders that we offer in captivity don't come close to what they can get in the wild. So we have to supplement with vitamins, calcium. Here we have a probiotic, which is good to like reset and adjust their gut biome for good bacteria. And then we also have like a slew of other things, color enhancers and stuff like that. But going back to like the bone diseases, so we give vitamin A or vitamins with D3, and then calcium. Calcium, obviously is good for your bone structure and growth and stuff like that. And with UVA and UVB, it helps like their body digest it and absorb it a lot better into their system. So with a lack of, no calcium or vitamins and lack of UVB, that's when you start to develop, the metabolic bone disease and stuff like that. It usually starts with like swelling in the joints, like usually around like the wrists and the elbows. And then once it goes past that stage, that's when you start to notice like it's pretty much like softening of the bones. Their arms will kind of start to like curl up, and they just don't get function out of it. And it can spread into their spine and their hips and stuff like that. Cause a lot of breathing disorders and stuff like that. It just kind of like daisy chains its way down.
So you see it more in lizards than snakes, or
typically with like bearded dragons and leopard geckos.
Yeah, so it's all the science behind it is that certain animals can synthesize their own vitamin D, And so UVB is what, they say you get your vitamin D from the sun. And so UVB is not only giving you some vitamin D, but it's allowing you to like basically absorb that vitamin D. And the easiest way to put it is vitamin D is kind of like the taxi cab driver for other minerals and vitamins in your body. And so without that driver, the calcium's just coming in one and going out the other and not getting sorted through the bones of the system, the organs and all that. And so a lot of like snakes, so a lot of snakes and a lot of animals that are like obligate carnivores that can eat whole prey, like they can synthesize their own vitamin D. And so they don't necessarily need UVB lighting. But one of my favorite sayings is unless the animal evolved to like live in the back of a cave and like lose its eyes, give it UVB. But that's where like bearded dragons is the number one example because bearded dragons can't synthesize their own vitamin D. And so without UVB light, they are going to get the metabolic bone disease. And you'll see like a 3-year-old dragon who's like 4 inches long and all wiggly. And that's because they basically never, reptiles are so resilient, it's still going to live and try to, grow, but without that proper, parameters, it's going to end up getting really soft bones, all sorts of stuff can happen.
Hey guys, we got 3 minutes left. How can people find the Serpentarium?
Definitely a good Google search. Looking for the Serpentarium. We are located in California and Texas. We have Elk Grove, California, Roseville, Lodi, Modesto. Those are all our California stores. And then in Texas, we have Richardson and McKinney, which are kind of like the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Should hopefully have another Texas store this year, and then we'll probably come back to California and work on opening more here in Cali.
Elk Grove, what's happening?
Yeah.
Hey, come on by.
Yeah, I'm in Elk Grove, man, and it's off of Bradshaw. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. We're just off of where the In-N-Out is on Bond and Laguna.
Okay, yeah.
And,
All right, okay.
coming on by.
Do you guys have a website?
Yeah, we have one that's it's a little old, outdated. It's called snakemuseum.com. Snakemuseum.com is our main website. Mainly good for products. We are going to get back to selling animals online. It's just a little hard to maintain inventory with 4 different stores in California and the 2 in Texas, and we don't want to accidentally sell an animal at one location and then sell it online. But that is a lot of stuff we're working on right now is bringing back the online website and a bunch of other social media stuff.
Can I get 3 lizards for this Chihuahua?
Oh, that might be a $20 surrender fee.
Hey, you guys need to get your AI agent and keep track of all that shit now. Get you about 4 or 5 agents, man. They'll keep track of all that.
Oh, yeah. No, I've been looking into it. I've been playing around with some of that stuff myself. And it's definitely going to help out because we just got a lot of stuff on the horizon. We've, for a long time, we've been really stagnant and just kind of like doing the stores. But we're going to bring back, going to parties, going to schools, having workshops in the shop, more online presence, more social media. We want to do our own podcast too. So one day, that's a lot of ideas. Just got to start making it happen.
Man. That would be a great
Also,
podcast.
The Serpentarium, you can sometimes see me at the Reptile Festival.
Yes, yeah. We go to the Sacramento Reptile Show. The Lugardi brand will go to a couple other shows throughout the nation. And then because our roots are out of Lodi, California.
Lodi, okay.
Yeah, they've been there for about 30 years. It used to belong to another gentleman, and then our owner worked for him for many years and then eventually acquired it. And that's where it went from like just a person's collection of breeding reptiles to pretty much the retail like little empire we got going on now. But yeah, no, it's definitely been growing a lot.
And I love that you guys are branching out and giving more information. When I adopted Mother Agnes, I had no idea. Google was useless, and everything on YouTube was breeders and people trying to sell their snakes.
Yeah, we definitely